Good evening to you. It is Sunday, September 29th at 9:16 p.m. Somehow my voice got worse between last night at 11 p.m. and this morning. And all day I've been struggling just to get words out. And it's been hard on my family because they want to hear me talk. I mean, I know it and all my friends as well. But I'm going to find a way to soldier through today on a QuickCast for you after breaking news this evening told us that our Boilermakers are without an offensive coordinator because Graham Harrell, after 4 games this season, has been fired by Ryan Walters. I'm going to dig into it a bit. But first, I'm going to thank our friends at From Home Field. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Get a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, a hat, one of those platinum packs. Check out the vintage coaches jackets. Hell, look at the stitched basketball jersey is another one of my favorites. Enter Boiled25 at checkout, get 15% off your purchase. And also, when you're in town, when you're in God's country, the best place to go to eat, to put food in your face, to get drink and enjoy it, especially on a game weekend, is AJ's. Just do what I do. After a pick six and Purdue's down, sprint towards the fire station, and then take a quick left when you get there, and you'll see the blue and black lights. At AJ's, you'll go inside. They're going to treat you great. The staff is friendly. The food is delicious. Piping hot. Appetizers and freezing cold beer. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. EatAJ's.com if you want to order ahead. Yeah, they treated me great yesterday. I told you that after the game, but I can't stress it enough how great they were to us. Adam, Jake, and co. Adam and Jake actually were busting their ass in the kitchen because Saturdays are like that. So anyway, all right, let's talk about football. Let's talk about what happened this evening. And I can't say I was sad. I can't say I was that I expected it either. When I started getting text messages, the first one I got was from my pal Handel Jones, who said, "Are you going on or what?" Pretty much. He didn't say that, not with that tone, but he asked me if I was going to do a quick cast, and literally I didn't even respond to him. I just went right to Purdue football, and I was like, it's got to be Harrell. And sure enough, Purdue football didn't say it, but Gold and Black did. They reported it, and then I started looking around and learning a little bit more. Here's one of the things that I learned this evening. This is pretty incredible. My pal Jay Money sent me a tweet by a guy named Antonio C. Morales on Twitter. And this is a good one to read. It's been wild to see Graham Harrell's trajectory over the past 5 years. After the 2019 regular season, he turned down the OC opportunities at Texas and with the Philadelphia Eagles. After the 2020 season, he was in the mix for the Boise State head coaching job. And tonight, Purdue is fired offensive coordinator Graham Harrell because Purdue is 104th in the nation in scoring and had just lost to Nebraska 28-10. And it felt worse than that, especially in that fourth quarter where all hell broke loose and the dam that had been held back by the defense really let loose. Offense didn't do the defense any favors. But why was Graham Harrell fired? I've already told you guys that I thought there was a problem, and there is a problem with the staff in that there's nobody behind Harrell that has called plays. Harrell has had a decent resume for calling plays at different places. There are a lot of fan bases that aren't big fans of Graham Harrell, specifically West Virginia's fans. They say Graham Harrell is no bueno in my native tongue. Turns out they were right. At Purdue, it's been pretty rough. I've had some people reach out to me and defend Harrell, which is interesting. Okay. If you watch the games, I don't know how you can defend Harrell. And if you look at the stats like I did on Friday, I don't know how you can defend Harrell. I don't know how you can defend this offense. Let's not forget, a lot of people are saying, well, he inherited what Walters gave him, but that's not exactly true because they were partners in this thing. If you look at from the jump, Walters went and got Harrell, and then they both went and got Hudson Card, which was their first choice. And watching the offense with Hudson Card at quarterback, with Graham Harrell at offensive coordinator on Saturday, we just see no progress. There's nothing happening there. And it's interesting because compare and contrast, I said this about Nebraska's offense. Nebraska wasn't doing anything innovative, terribly innovative. They weren't mixing up their plays too much, but they were mixing them up enough. Meaning they'd work in a jet sweep. They'd use tight ends, they'd use wide receivers. They get guys into space. And when you watch Purdue play on offense, the only thing that was exciting or made the offense exciting at all was the fact Maccabee would make the first man miss and then do something in the open field. The much beleaguered wide receiver core at Purdue is taking it on the chin. I don't think it's very fair myself. I know that they're down 2 receivers. I'm very aware of that. I just don't think they've been given any opportunities to succeed. And that's just my take on this thing. I think they are more talented than they've been able to show. I'll stand on that too, because if you go back and you look at the recruiting rankings of the guys that are in there, the guys that are playing, they're young, but they're not this flat of a group. They just aren't. And the other thing that we heard from coaches during the offseason was that this wide receiver core was ready to go, and they were kind of loaded up. Have we been able to see proof of that? Not really. I know there are a lot of guys here that I think have talent. We just haven't seen a lot of proof of it. So I wanted to go back and say, okay, why does this happen now, though? There's a couple reasons. If you look at the way Purdue does business, one of the things they do, one of the things the athletic department has done historically, is if you're a big donor, you've got a concierge of sorts, a person who handles your account. They handle your tickets, they handle your donations, that sort of thing. And they'll reach out every now and again just to see how you're doing. And I had a friend that told me about this a couple of years ago. So when things weren't great under Danny Hope, things weren't great under Darrell Hazel, they started asking these people what's going on. And why would they ask? Why would they reach out at certain times, especially in the middle of the season? Number one, good to keep the relations up with the people that make things go. The people that monetize the program, the people that push things forward. Honestly, Big Ten money is a big deal. It's a lot different than it was 5-10 years ago. But at the same time, those donors are very, very important in the whole equation. It sounds like I'm in a public kitchen. I swear I'm not. I'm at my home. But what's happening behind me on the other side of the room is ridiculous. I went on the air and everybody decided, okay, it's time to have a party. I don't know if it's being picked up by the mic, but it's making me nuts. Anyway, okay, so... but if you look at this concierge type treatment, what they do is they'll call the people that give a lot of money and they'll say, how you feeling? Coming back for this game? We really love having you there. You know, these people have given a lot of money. They've got season tickets that are a lot better than mine. And they've given a lot more than I have historically. So they need to keep these people happy. And sometimes those people say something like, well, not coming back next week after what I just saw. And when they get enough of those comments, then they make a note and they say, we have to do something. Okay. Before that, there's a lot of hate mail that the athletic department has to field. Emails, phone calls, that sort of thing that come in, and it'll be people just as angry as you have been, but maybe not as tactful as you are. I'm giving you credit out there, listener and viewer. And so they call Babinski's office, or they call whomever's office, and they leave a voicemail. And these voicemails, these comments start mounting. And then they say, let's get even further. Let's dig deeper into this. And my guess is this started 2 weeks ago after the Notre Dame game, 3 weeks ago now after the Notre Dame game, after that abysmal performance on both sides of the ball. And so Babinski's hand was forced a bit. I do not think he's this type of manager. I don't think he wanted to do it, but I think he had to do it. But why did he really have to do it? I went and I just compiled a little list. I went back and we've seen some bad football at Purdue. I think Purdue all time is like either 53 or 58% winner as a program. Not great. There's been some blips of good upticks, but there's been some bad football. And if you're as old as me, if you're near 50, you've seen a lot of that bad football with your own 2 eyes. You've seen a lot of bad football. If you're my dad's age, you've seen even more, but you've seen some great ones too. You've seen the 60s. You've seen the Tiller era. You've seen Coach Young. You've seen a little bit of Coach Brahms era. You've seen some good football. But in the bad, let's look at this. So I went back all the way to Coach Young. So I went all the way back to the early 80s. And I started compiling a bottom 10 winning percentage-wise. And I'll just go through this. 82, let's do it this way. 82, you have 27% winning percentage. 86, 27% winning percentage. 1990, 18% winning percentage. 1993, a 9% winning percentage. That's a horrible team. I was on campus for that one. ESPN, Sports Illustrated ranked Purdue the worst team in college football that year. I remember that one. That was one there. That was awful. One win all season. 1996, 27% winning percentage. 2013, 8% winning percentage. 15, 17%, 16, 25%, 24 so far, 25%. And it looks like that's going to get worse if you're just extrapolating it. And if you look at what Vegas thinks and you look at what some other analytical data says, it's going to be worse than 25%. And then below that, if you want to go past the top or the bottom 9, you have 4 different seasons tied at 33% winning. Pretty shitty. Pardon me. Pretty lousy. Don't mean to let my words fly, but I've done it quite a bit the last few days, and I apologize. So I took the bottom 5 of those winning percentages, and then I tried to compare a couple key stats. I compared total offense, I compared points, and first downs per game, which is a harder stat to find, and I couldn't find it for all of them back into the 90s. But here's what I found. According to this, the 2024 team is the second worst all-time of total offense with 322 yards a game so far. They're the third worst all-time in points per game since 1980. And they're the worst all-time in first downs per game. It dropped from 15 first downs per game to 14.3 after this week's game. So it's pretty bad. So what's Purdue going to do now, right? I think that's the whole thing. We can all complain and we can all put out our grievances. We can yell them into the sky like we do on Twitter. Jay Money says this. He said, he's always said, Twitter is really, it's almost like you're in the middle of a field surrounded by people. And sometimes the crowd's even more dense. So a night like a Saturday night when you're watching college football, if you're like me in my field, it's really, you're just in the middle of the field and you're yelling something and you're trying to see if anybody's going to come and enjoy the commentary that you're putting out there. But there's been a lot of people yelling. There's been a lot of people complaining. You go on message boards, it's the same thing. And we have something legit to complain about, but do we have a solution? And that was my biggest concern. I don't know if there's a direct salvation around the corner on the staff. I told you before, Corey Patterson is next in line. That's the deal. He is currently the associate head coach. He's the wide receivers coach at Purdue, and he's a guy that's generally liked by everybody from players to other coaches. People like him a lot. And what I said was he has some play calling experience, but the problem is his play calling experiences comes at Trinity Catholic High School in St. Louis. Other than that, he's been a good wide receiver, a good positional coach, but his resume is simply just not that deep. And that's a rub, right? After that, you've got a bunch of guys that have not called plays. So then you got to say, okay, can you get creative? And this is where Mike Babinski and Coach Ryan Walters might have to get creative. They might have to dig deep into a bag of tricks. And if you were in this bag, where would you go? And Anish talked about this last week. He has this long list of potential offensive coordinators because he's a sicko. And he does that, and it's awesome. Is it always right? No. Is it thorough? Yeah. And he thinks through things pretty good. And two names that rose to the top of his list when we were talking earlier tonight are two names that you heard last week. One is Justin Fuente. He's a former Virginia Tech coach where he failed miserably as a head coach. Before that, he was at Memphis where he was a pretty doggone good head coach for 3 years. Had a very, very fun offense to watch. Before that, he was at TCU, offensive coordinator from 2009 to 2011. He's been a running backs coach. And before that, if you reach even further back, he was at Illinois State, and I believe he was under Brock Spack, if my timing is correct. He may have just missed Brock Spack, now that I look at that. But he's got a really good resume, and he's not busy right now. He was at Indiana as an analyst last year, and this year everything changed when they brought in Cignetti. He's a pretty good candidate if you're going to try to be inventive and say, let's go outside the Purdue family and find a guy who is a consultant to the new offensive coordinator, which would be Corey Patterson. The reason I say that is because of the nomenclature and the plays. You really don't want to scramble the players at this point. You want to say, okay, this is our playbook. Maybe we can add wrinkles throughout practice as we go along. But to completely throw out the playbook is a near impossibility. If you don't understand this, in game 4, you've never played football. Playbooks are difficult in college. Playbooks in big-time college are really difficult, even in an error raid like what we've been watching. But you need to keep some of the verbiage the same to make it easy on the players to adapt. You need to keep the bones of the offense the same, but add some wrinkles. You need to look in that playbook and say, what do we have already that hasn't been used very effectively, and what can we shape and pull on right now? So that's one candidate. But my number one candidate, if you're going to bring in a consultant who might be able to coach quarterbacks, who might be able to consult with Corey Patterson. So you keep Corey Patterson in place. But remember, you're not only losing an offensive coordinator, you're also losing the quarterback's coach in Graham Harrell. I'd bring in Dan Mullen. We talked about this last Monday. Dan Mullen is the former Florida coach, the former Mississippi State coach, I believe. Yeah, Mississippi State. Incredible record of turning out good offenses. He also coached at Utah before that. His resume is impeccable, except for his last stop in Florida, which he had a little bit of a speed bump. But Florida's been struggling a lot more mightily than they were when he was there. His record in bowls is 7-3 overall, 103-61 as a head coach. Pretty damn good as a coach, and very, very available as a coach if he's willing to bite on the idea, on the concept. Right now, he's working for ESPN Thursday nights doing color commentary during games. He is available. There are other Purdue fans saying, why not call David Blau? David Blau is working, I think, for the Washington Commanders in his first year in coaching. But he's a good quarterback mind. He's a young, approachable guy. He's a good football mind. He played a short stint in the NFL. I joked around about why not bring Mark Herman out of the booth, because he knows quarterbacks. He's an approachable guy. You also know he's been pretty befuddled as he's watched the offense this year and been in the booth. And then put me in the booth. Why not? I'll step in. It was all tongue in cheek. But Mark Herman has no coaching experience, and that's the rub, right? So it would be really smart for Purdue to keep it somewhat in the family, but somewhat difficult. Also, my guess is it's probably a long shot to bring somebody from the outside, even in as a consultant. But I believe it's a possibility. One thing to think about in the error of this air raid, one big thing to think about, and you probably are aware of this, right now, Graham Harrell's getting paid $900,000. Last year, he got paid $800,000, I believe. And next year, he was set to make $1 million. The first time ever a Purdue football coordinator or coach would make $1 million in a single season. I believe how his contract is written, they will still pay that $1 million. So there was a buyout that had to happen. That hurts a little bit. But that tells you, as Jay, he had a great point earlier in the night, this was a decision that was either brought down from up high from Babinski or was absolutely agreed to by Babinski by Walters. Regardless of how they did it, these two had to talk about it. I don't know how it came about. I haven't read a story yet about how this came about. But both of them knew this was coming. This wasn't that was like shot from the hip, because there was big money on the line here. $1 million is $1 million. I don't care who you are. So let's talk. You guys got a lot of comments here. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in live. A lot of comments. MHC says it happened. Ken said finally. Adam P says good evening. RT Huxley says nice. Big time boiler. Grant says boiler up. Praise be. Graham Harrell is gone. It's been rough, guys and girls. It's been rough. And if you're like Grant, who I'm sure he's poured over data, I've poured over data. I've talked about it here. You can say, holy moly, is this rough? And the more you look at stats and the more you watch this team, the more you go back and watch film, the worse it seems. Ted Berge says, hopefully this leads to improvement. I don't know if it can get much worse, but I don't know how much it'll improve either. I just think it's something they had to do to say, yes, we hear you guys. Yes, it's deafening. We hear you enough already, right? Yeah, Big Time Boiler says, props to Purdue. This is a big boy move, and it had to happen. Boilerman, hammer down. Ted Berkey says, think we will have one of the offensive coaches step up, or Walters call plays. Walters does not have much of a background in offense as a coach. This is the rub. I don't think he's ready to call plays. I don't think he says he wants to call plays on offense. In fact, he gave over the play calling duties and took him back, and then gave him back over, if I remember correctly. On the defensive side, I think it'll be Corey Patterson, just because he's assistant head coach, and he's up there in the coaching staff. And I think that's the answer. I think that's what's going to happen. I have not heard anything official. This is just me prognosticating. Let's see. Boiler Beer says, Colts got a good W today. Yeah, that was nice. That was really nice. And the funny thing is, that's an offense that's been pretty uninspiring. The really interesting thing to me about that game was Anthony Richardson actually looked pin sharp early in the game. He was making really good passes before getting hurting his hip, which I think is what we're going to see as Colts fans. But Flacco stepped in and was Joe Flacco. He's old. He's a game manager. He had 2 touchdowns, which is awesome. They were early, and then they figured him out, and they blitzed him a lot, and he struggled with the blitz. maybe he'll be better with a week with the ones, but I bet Richardson's going to come back with the ones next week. That's the way I feel. But his hip is injured. They say it's not too bad. Boiler Fool says, never good for anyone to lose a job, but it was time. In this era, you can't wait. You really can't. Brian T says, color me surprised. Sam says, well, now what? I answered a little bit of that, what I think. Ultimate Boiler says, in the presser announcing Anish as OC happening tomorrow or this week. Yeah, I think that comes out later. Anish is happy. He doesn't ask for a lot. He just wants a solid amount of money for a year and then a really, really good buyout. And he'll happily rain compliments on everyone who let that happen. Adam P says, does LBD play EA NCAA 25? He does. Surely there can be a collaboration of kids that know the game that are also good with numbers that could play call in plays from their dorm room. It wouldn't be much worse. And if you're talking about what your definition right there, kids that are good with numbers, kids that play EA Sports, kids that have poured over different playbooks, I think he would fall into that category. I think he would also tell you he's not very good at EA Sports, EA College Sports, College Football 25. Ted Berge says, please keep East Tennessee and West North Carolina in your prayers after storm damage. Yeah, it is gnarly down there, guys. Some dams failed. And yeah, I've been praying for the people down there. Really, really lousy visuals and horrible things. Pretty crazy to see a hurricane affect that far north, that far away from the water. But yeah, keep them in your prayers. Thanks, Ted. John Harrell says, this is the first win for Purdue in a while. That's a funny comment, and I tend to agree. Obviously, you got the big Indiana State win. Boilerman says, whip up a nice AI system in the booth to be OC. And this is... I mean, hell, why not give it a try? Why not institute a little AI help? Time to innovate. I agree. Time to innovate. Adam P says, so a bit more serious question. Can this move actually save the program for where it is headed? Or is it just a performative move and bigger problems will continue to grow? So my gut says this isn't a move. And I said this a second ago, but I'll be clear. I don't think this is a move that like turns the season around. But there are things, I've said this, I've thought about this a lot. I don't think this is something that you say, okay, you fired Harrell, now everything looks north. No, you say we have to hold somebody accountable because you're hearing a low roar of complaints. It's probably not very low for Babinski and Walters. They're hearing it. And Walters admitted to it as much. Like he's kind of hinted at it. He admitted to it as much this week in the presser. So that's the first thing. I think you have to do something. I just think you have to do something. This is not Purdue football in the 90s, which I was around. Not I was playing, but I was there as a student. And there was a little more patience because he kind of just said, well, we're not on that level. But even then, the accountability came. And we talked about that. What was it after that that game where Purdue gave up 49 points or something? The defensive coordinator and another coach who they actually got in a fist fight, I believe, from one account. They were fired that Monday, or their resignations were accepted. So I think it's similar here. I think you have to have some accountability. So let's see. Craig Mockabee, Devin's uncle says, man, it feels like 1,000 pounds have been lifted. Feeling good. Yeah, and I can understand your perspective, especially. It's very frustrating to me, Craig, watching Devin get as few carries as he's gotten and also not being given the space to do his job. He's done so much with nothing. Like literally, it feels to me like he gets the ball, he gets hit almost every time right away. And so, darn it, I'm with you. And I know you're not the only close relative, parent type person that listens here. We appreciate all you guys on here. And I hope, I've tried to be very clear. I have no issues with the kids here. And I especially, gosh darn it, especially Mock. I mean, my goodness. I want to give this guy a chance to do something. I think if nothing else, I mean, roll the guys out, roll Card out. Let's see Ryan Brown in there every now and again. Let's mix things up. Let's see a little bit of Wildcat, whatever you want to call it. Give guys a chance to do something. Just keep linebackers and ends honest a little bit so they can't pin their ears back. Mark Garrity says Purdue fans will still care. We haven't gotten to apathy. This is a good point. I don't think we are to apathy yet. I agree, Mark. This move at minimum shows that they are hearing us and are willing to take measures to move forward. This is a new look for Purdue. I agree, and it's quick, somewhat quick. Connor Fitch says Purdue is my secondary team. This is odd, and I think you guys can bounce back. Huge fan of Walters. I'm an Indy fan, and Purdue has some of the best fans in the state. Appreciate that, Connor. So I think if you've been around here even for a couple weeks, you've said I don't know how to do that secondary fan thing. I just don't. There's some teams that I like, and I don't know your story, Connor, but I do appreciate that. And Purdue's fans have been, they've been great. And I'll tell you one thing here. I didn't mention this in the last game. I talked about how great homecoming was because of everything around it was good. Meeting up with people, old pals, is awesome. All the alumni stuff is great. It's just it's a fun day. It's a fun weekend. It was an absolute pall the way that game ended. But one thing that killed me, and I didn't mention this, and I'm big about uniforms. You guys know this if you've been around for a while. But those uniforms look like a throwback to the Akers era. Gosh darn it, looked like a throwback to the Akers era when Hunter was quarterback. To me, from far away, I had like that shudder feeling. So I didn't like that either, and maybe that's just an issue where I'm too old for my own good here, because I remember that. So yeah, Purdue fans have done their job. I appreciate that, and I hope we keep our foot on the gas as fans. Boiler012 says, I worked in the athletic department briefly when I was in school. During the Hope years, towards the end, the emails and calls that would come in were really something, and almost on a weekly basis. And yes, I can confirm that Hope era was one of the things that was most interesting to me because Purdue was winning at a decent clip. They were beating bad teams and losing big to good teams, losing really badly to good teams. And it's interesting that you got to hear some of those directly. It was deafening, and they made a decision. I think some people thought it was quick, but it was all based on, there's another element I forgot to talk about this. The corporate sponsors of the stadium are also affected by bad game Saturdays. Businesses will feel it. I think it was University Bookstore years and years ago, so I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus. It was a long time ago. But University Bookstore told me, they gave me some stat on the drop in sales they had during one really particularly bad 2-year period. The drop in sales for that one store was incredible. And so partners like that go to the athletic department and they say, hey, we're hanging on by our fingernails here. We can't keep doing this. And they want to sponsor Purdue sports. They want it to be a good partnership. The university hears that as well. So there are a lot of layers of this. Todd Singer says, joining late, never fun to fire someone. Agree. But this was needed move. Billy Shank, I agree, Todd. Billy Shank says, sorry, I'm late. No, I'm glad you're here, Billy. Sit down. You can sit right in the front row. Karen Grulak says, was at every game that you mentioned. It was brutal. Yeah, we've watched some bad football, haven't we, Karen? Connor Fitch continues. After the year, I'm hoping you go after Dellen McCullough. I think you talked about him the other day. He said before he wants to be a coordinator somewhere, and he's an amazing recruiter. You may not have. Somebody else mentioned this, but there's a good list out there. I think so. Here's my thought is that this firing, like I said, this is an accountability move, and I think it can get better. I think one thing that can happen right away is just mixing up the plays a little bit because there's so little space for Card or whoever they put at quarterback this Saturday for the quarterback to do his job. And the second part, there's no room for the running backs to do their jobs, and the receivers don't have time to run routes. I mean, other than that, the offense is great and dynamic and in great shape. So, yeah, but there are a lot of guys that are on this list. This is a good name, but the bigger thing is there's going to be a bigger hire at the end of the season now, and that sets that up. I really believe that sets up. One thing that Coach Walters has to do and Coach Kane has to do this week, they have to take another step for the defense. The defense took a step forward by playing really well for 3 quarters, except those penalties, which were atrocious. And I think those can get better in a hurry. That's technique that can be changed really, really fast, but they have to work on it. The DBs have to turn around, find the ball, play the ball. I know they're playing aggressive. I know that. And I know it didn't lead straight to points on most of the penalties. Those are dangerous penalties. And those are drive sustaining penalties, and those are penalties that make coaches absolutely crazy. Even though you want guys to play aggressive, you do not want PIs that much. So they've got some things they have to clean up on defense, but the defense has to make big strides forward and say, okay, we did something on offense. We have to create something. We have to manufacture points. We have to manufacture yards. We have to keep the offense on the field longer to rest the defense so they can finish a game. Compare and contrast the way Purdue finishes the game right now to the way IU finishes games. Go and watch IU play. And I know this pisses Purdue fans off. You want to be more mad? You want to stir the coals and make the embers hot? Watch IU play. IU finishes games. And the reason they finish the games is they have an identity. They're super balanced. They are relatively disciplined. They're very sound all the way around the ball. They're not like lighting the world on fire. You're not like, whoa. But man, they are sound. So, yeah. Sam says football is a revenue generator at the collegiate level. 2 years removed from a Big Ten West title. Season ticket sales are high. And then the past 3 weeks, this happened. This is ugly. Agreed, Sam. Ron Gable says, is Jim Chaney available? I actually looked up. Jim Chaney has a lower level job, but I'd say he's available because of his lower level job. His buyout would be small. But yes, he is OC someplace. I just can't remember where it was, but I looked at this last week. I still like Jim Chaney. There are a lot of Purdue fans, for some reason, have a bad taste in their mouth about Jim Chaney. Jim Chaney's offenses, though, every stop have been good and productive. They score points. They move the ball. Bring him in again, you need a consultant right away. And this is what Walters, if anybody has ears and gets back to Walters and they're watching this show, just tell Coach Walt, you need a consultant with a good offensive mind just to get in the ears and heads of Corey Patterson and company. You need a guy there that can maybe help the quarterbacks during the week, but talk to those coaches behind closed doors. He does not have to call plays. He does not have to change the playbook, but say, we need to see a dramatic result. We need to see better wrinkles, but here's the playbook. Tell us what to do. And I think it takes some humility, but it's time for humility. Toby Sturgill says, and by the way, again, Coach Walters has been very humble, and I appreciate that. I don't know how he can be much more humble. I've never seen a head coach as humble as Walt in press conferences, and I appreciate it, but he's got to get better. Claude Plumley says, how about Seth Dodge, tight ends coach with a QB background? I don't know who that is, and I'm sorry. I'm going to plead ignorance here. Seth Dodge, D-O-E, or it's got to be D-O-E-G-D, Dogdy. So I apologize. I don't know him. And some names I've gotten. Well, one person said in the comments a week ago, Purdue's got to hire Stanford's head coach if they ever get into that search mode. And then this week, I watched Stanford play pretty badly. There's a lot of people with a lot of bents who are like, that's the guy. You just need to get somebody out there that has a really good resume who is interested in being part of the Purdue family. I think it's that simple. You want somebody who's interested in Purdue and says, yeah, I think Purdue's worthwhile here. Who likes Coach Walters, like during an interview, you got to be quick. Don't be hasty, but you have to be somewhat quick. The conversations go well. There's a meshing. Maybe it's somebody that I actually would say, get a committee together very, very quickly of Purdue football minds. Say, everybody gives a list of 3. Coach Walters talks to these guys in rapid succession. You say, does this person want to be at Purdue? Is their resume super strong? Like, do they know their stuff? Mullen is available. I don't think you're going to find a resume better than that. I mean, he's on ESPN. Maybe you could even get Mullen to act as a consultant and he could still keep his job as ESPN. I don't know. Think out of the box. I don't know why that wouldn't be possible. You need somebody to have meetings with the coaches and make things better in a hurry. So Toby Sturgill said something had to give. Said something had to give. The defense has improved and was able to hold Nebraska for more than a quarter. No, they were really good very good for a half, and then third quarter still very solid, and then just got gassed. Fourth quarter was rough. The offense was letting the team down by numerous three and outs, and not giving the defense rest. Yeah, that's the biggest part. Not giving the defense rest is huge. Ed Albanese probably thinking of some delicious gummy bear delights as we speak. Says, good move now. Time will tell, but a change was needed. Thank you, Ed. Agreed. Jay Tent says, we need to get so hung up on buzzwords like air raid, ground and pound, run and gun. Just give me creativity, smart play calling, and I don't care if it's through the air or on the ground. And I agree, Jay. I agree. That really doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't matter. What matters is how the offense looks. Does it keep the defensive coordinators on their heels? John Harrell says, what's Drew Brees doing? Drew Brees is on every commercial he can be on and every print ad for one of his many business endeavors, and he's got tons of them. He's in a Pickler. It's a pickleball place. He's got, of course, walk-ons. He's got the health food store. It's just off campus, but there are tons of locations. He's in everything. I think he's really investing in business right now. And I think if I were going to do anything, I would bring Brees as a quarterback coach. That's about it. His first run at that role wasn't great, if you recall. Let's see. Craig Mockabee says, I'm all for being creative on play calling. We got the talent. Just got to know how to use them. I agree, Craig. I agree. Ed Albany says, I would think the Brahms are stuck in Louisville. Doubt it. Oh, so somebody. Yeah, okay. Sam says, no more Brahms. There's somebody. This thing skipped down, and there's so many comments. I'm starting to skip through them. Andrew Wide says, Walters will decide whether this is a turn in the right direction or the program is in chaos. Yeah, this is going to test his mettle. There's a lot of testing happening right here with this move, and so you'll see how he handles this. How does he talk to his staff right now? What does he do next? I think he's a pretty calm guy. I think he's a pretty even keel person, a pretty level-headed person, but he is not experienced. So this is quite a test of somebody with his. The Noodle says, what about Jeff Brom's son? That was the comment that got it. And that's Brady. Yeah, Brady is, I think is he a Louisville student now? I really don't know what he's doing, but remember he was the get back coach. So yeah. Yeah. Good question. Daryl Thomas says, did Walters call the D this week? I don't know the answer. Maybe some of you guys know, and I've kind of lost track of that. I know last year he went back and forth, so I don't know the answer. I apologize. Melissa Hunt says, heard Drew Brees is free. I kid. Yeah, you're not the only one who thinks this way, and I understand why people, if nothing else, there's crazy sizzle to the name, and that would get a lot of Purdue fans being like, hey, what? Right? Just like before the game, the bowl game, when Purdue got just absolutely curb stomped. But when Brees was there in some role, I think everybody got perked up, right? I don't think there's any doubt. So, yeah, Brian T says this move is maybe more of a sign for future players than for effect on this current season. I think it's multifaceted, but I don't think there's anybody that thinks this is a something that's going to have a direct result, like a big success turnaround. I don't. Unless they get super creative. Alex Drick says, there was a reporter yesterday. Oh yeah, I heard this. So this reporter from the Exponent said this, said Walters punched the wall and yelled at the complex after walking with the AD, Babinski, probably told him to make a change better than how Burke went along with Hazel. So we don't know what was said. So the report was by an Exponent reporter on Twitter. And I think he didn't say punch the wall. He said that Walters hit the wall and yelled as they were walking down the hallway of the complex. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty good source. I think it happened, and I don't know what was said. I can't report that. Carl Horojo says $850K to $900,000 to $1 million. I'm not crying for Harrell. Exactly, and you shouldn't. And that's my whole point. It's a big boy game. He's made a lot of money in the game. He'll probably he's gonna get a job guaranteed as a quarterback coach someplace. But the fall is noteworthy. He's not a guy that spends a lot of money, I don't think. He doesn't seem to live a lavish lifestyle. We talked about he had a short NFL career. He's had a great coaching career, and he's not done yet. So don't cry for him. This is something that maybe he learns from the mistakes, comes back better, and he goes someplace and kicks ass. Who knows? Ancient Astronaut says we suck. And I don't know if you're talking about yourself, Ancient, because I am incredible right now. I'm just kidding. Yeah, the Noodle says not Walter's call alone. No way it was. No way. Keep Chopping says, guess this is a vote of confidence for Walter's survival. There's a lot of ways to interpret this. I can see that. Let's go with Dick Stillwagon say he gone. And he continues, Walter's gone after the Oregon L. So Dick Stillwagon's saying this is a foreshadowing of what's going to happen. I don't think that's it. I don't think that's what we're seeing here. I don't think this is, I don't read it that way. So I don't read it that way at all. Derek Wade says, send Walters back to Illinois. Dick Stillwagon says, handsome hour, aka rant tomorrow. We're going to be very level-headed. It's just going to be a normal handsome hour. It's going to be very level-headed, very focused on the issues at hand, tidy, wrapped up in 50 minutes or so. That's what we do. If you believe any of that, you haven't watched many handsome hours. Okay. Maniacally, Steve says, looking forward to the handsome 90-minute rant therapy session. Yeah. So that was a shot at me, and that hurts. Albany's great point. Jeff Saturday. Yeah. See, we don't want that. Robert Ranny says, wasn't he our tight end coach who went to Marshall? I don't know what you're talking about. Wasn't he our tight end coach who went to, I don't know what you're talking about. Sorry. And I'm jumping around a little bit in the comments, so I think I'm missing. Josh Cussell says, under center. Get under center, is that what you're saying, Josh? So I don't know. I'm really trying to catch up because I've got multiple things happening. Motor City Boiler says, I wonder why he punched the wall when talking to Bobo yesterday, as reported by the Exponent reporter on Twitter. Maybe Bobo told him Harrell had to go. We don't know. We don't know. It could be that he's just pissed off. He's walking with Babinski, and Babinski said, what the hell? You know, what's happening? Why are things not improving? And he said, and he's agitated, and he doesn't understand why he can't get it done. Could be that. I think Coach Walter's the guy who holds himself accountable. I really do. I don't see, and I've heard or seen anything that makes me think otherwise. He's not a guy that's brushing things under the rug. Not a lot of coach speak after the games where he's staying positive, any of that. He's been very humble. So, Josh Cussell continues, Walter's defense only works with an offense that eats clocks. And I think that's true. I think that is true. So you need an offense that is sustainable and sustained during drives. No doubt. Let's see. Craig Mockbee says, calling Ben Furtney, please report to fullback position. Yeah. I mean, can install the fullback. You can install the jumbo packages. Give D-Mock a little room to operate. That's got to, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing to put it in there. And I guarantee it's already in the playbook, right, Craig? I'm sure. So, Josh Cushel says, mock sting boys. Yeah. I think everybody would love to see, maybe you can feature the running backs a little bit more. Not only Devin, but Reggie have both been really, really good so far. They just need room to work. Play calling's gotta get better. Gotta get better. I mean, I'd love to see all the receivers healthy too. Let's if we're gonna get greedy, let's see the whole thing. Let's see the whole offense on display, and let's see some new looks. So I think that's about it. I appreciate everybody tuning in live. Good man. Thanks everybody for being here and venting with me. Sorry about the comment section jumping around a little bit, but I don't know if I couldn't really change it because Google's been splendid today. Hope you have a great evening. I got it in 42 minutes. Once again, an excellent QuickCast. Don't know why I can't do that. Good evening. God bless you. Hammer down. Onward and upward. New and better things are coming. We'll keep you tuned in. We'll keep you tuned in with what we hear. If we hear anything good, and if we don't, we'll theorize. Why the hell not? See you later.